It didn't glitch. Welcome to it's the rechristened Racing with Jesse Rosinski because it's easier, and I want to own my name so no one else can touch it because they're commies and them. And today I finally got Walter on here. If I go between Chuck and Walter, well, his first name is Charles, but he's a grumpy old miserable prick. So at times
it happens.
You fit Walter very, 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 very well. Before we jump into the stuff, you have anything about, I'm going to talk about that Desert X-Prix E League Championship Series that I stumbled on yesterday, running in Saudi Arabia. I don't know if you'd like it, but it's all electric. It's their second series. Your boy Chip has a car there. But it was cool. I mean, for electric cars, you hear them just humming. It was kind of weird, but it was interesting. Very interesting. Run through the desert over rocks, there was barrel rolls. It was really weird. And they're starting a hydrogen car series this season as well, which we can't figure out how to get electric. And these guys are going to be running races with hydrogen powered cars. So there you go, America. But Elon can do it.
That could be a stepping stone for the future.
Yeah, I mean, God, I hope NASCAR never does it. But yeah, their heat races were 2 laps. And then they'd stop after 2 laps and they'd switch drivers so they could finish. The other driver could finish the race, which is still weird. But there's a male and female on each team. So, and those girls were getting it. You would have been proud seeing how much wheel they were all grabbing.
You remember 2.5 years ago, probably when they were originally still in the planning process, all that, and like finalizing everything, they had talked about how it was going to be like a relay style race.
And it was good, dude. Like,
I'm assuming that was the concept behind everything.
Yeah, it was. They only run a few races, but they run on everything. It turns out this was the desert one. The next one is the Island X-Prix in Sardinia. So I think that'll be different and weird. They're running down in Chile, which I'm guessing is going to be some muddy, mountainous stuff. Lots of cool stuff.
It'll be like a mountain race for autocross, or not autocross, mountain race for GNCC racing for 4-wheelers, cross country racing for dirt bikes.
Yeah. And there's some good stuff that's happening there too. But then they had the crazy race. That's literally what they called it. It's called the crazy race. I mean, but whatever. There's 4 cars in that. The final had 5. And if you go back and find it on FS2, that Christopherson guy, I mean, he went, I don't know what the hell he did on the last lap, but he put that bitch into the big D. And he just mauled it, just blew right by them all. There were 2 big tumbles. The Genesis Andretti United car took out, and I think their heat race, barrel rolling, but he was fine. And then the McLaren XI team, he went kaboom. You would have been proud of the first guy because he was all, screw it, there's no more track. And he tried to go off track, around a guy and make his own lane. And well, he caught into one of those big old hoofs of grass that, like the root balls like this big, and it just stopped his whole car and he just went flying. I was like, huh. Like, I'm coming, kaboom, I'm done. But and your boy again, Chip Ganassi, has a car. I know how much you love him. I saw his name. I was like, I think Chuck isn't watching this. But he's gone now. You got your wish. He's gone. He's not. You don't have to deal with him anymore. He's sold out. Which
he's good in other series. He's got to go in another series. I'll give him that.
He had to go in Cup for a win. I mean, part of his problem though in Cup was, I mean, he had to get rid of Kyle for Kyle to be where he is now. But Kyle wasn't he wasn't in the right mentality when he was driving for Chip, because we saw how good he was when he was driving for him. In the cars, he just wasn't, he was either I'm on the wall or I'm in the wall. There's no in between in his line. Once he figured out how to run everywhere, because he lost everything and he won like 120 out of like 124 races after he got fired in like a million different cars. He's now where he is now.
His win ratio for that year was probably, well, from what I heard, a couple old time drivers say, his overall win ratio will never be touched again. That percentage was absolutely crazy.
He was
in one season.
And he was driving late models. He was driving wings. He was driving wingless. I mean, he was just driving every single thing that he could put his.
I think I said this before, and I only had one person, and that's because he's kind of ignorant, ever argue with me about it. But we won't say anything.
Is he related to you? No, okay, it's not. At least it's not him. What? That's his. Yeah.
Yep.
Carry on.
Anyways, where was I going with that?
I have no idea. I do that all the time.
Oh, anyways, the ratio, it was just astronomical. His first weekend in that the late model. When he won that night, I think for him, that was when his mentality truly changed, because it was like, wait a minute, I really am better than I thought I was. I just got to get my mind where it needs to be, because he raced his first weekend ever in a late model that weekend. His second time being in the car was the race, and he won it. I mean, I don't care if anyone says I've driven a late model. Those are not an easy car to handle. They're harder than sprint cars.
It's pretty hard to just figure it. Like, here, where do you go? Key, gas, go. The old stereotype we have for a certain demographic of our driving base in the country and the world. He figured it out. He figured out he won like 98% of his races. He was setting records every single time he won anything, because he was just winning by like years and years and years. Like nothing touched him.
What was the series he raced that summer that Tony raced in?
I know what you're talking about. I can't tell you.
Ollie sponsored it. I think it was.
It was.
No,
like,
not that. That was the sports car.
He ran everything.
It was one of the, I want to say it was either the All-Star or USAC race, but either way, the whole point of it was the wingless sprint cars. Him and Tony ran together, and he made Tony look weak in that race. And I'm like, that's Tony's wheelhouse. So for that to happen,
he in one fell swoop, in one giant word with a hard R at the end of it on national television, he grew up really, like by like 3 days later. And I mean, yeah,
I'm not going to say anything. I'm not innocent when it comes to saying things you probably shouldn't say.
No one's fucking innocent to that. See, I just slipped right there. No one is innocent. Everyone says stupid stuff, and then normally when people call people out for saying stupid stuff, then everyone pulls their stupid stuff they said out, and then
well,
they go away.
It's funny. Yesterday, I went and had an operation done on my toe, and the doctor, who I did not expect to come out of her mouth, was talking about the stuff over in Ukraine and all that. And she says, half of our problem in this country is you can't even have an honest conversation because there's too many snowflakes. I was like, you said it, lady. I didn't.
There's that weird buggy if anyone's actually watching, but yeah, like that's a whole nother, we'll get into that later today. But now we can get back to, like, I mean, again, Kyle came back last year, and I saw him in Darlington, and the aero package is why he didn't win that race. Because when he got up to a certain point with Denny, and then the air was funny, so he couldn't actually get to Denny. And when he had the lead, I mean, he just drove away from everyone. It wasn't anyone couldn't do anything because of the airs, because Kyle was just see you later, bye. Right. He was the only one that drove away from anyone in that race. I would know. I was on the back stretch, and then there was like 10 to go. I'm like, well, we're leaving. I'm like, why? It's not done. Like, it's done. Why? See how we got to about this close, and then he went from this far away to that close at about 2 laps. And then he just stopped. But this race is over unless something dumb happens. It's over. It was a shame. I hope the new car fixes that problem. We'll finally we won't figure anything out this weekend, but before we get to this weekend, before we get to it, what was your takeaways from Daytona? And more importantly, we'll just go by series, the truck series. I was just disappointed that Matty D wasn't even like competitive in the whole entire race. Like he didn't do anything. Which is a bummer.
It's a cliche to say it, but time will tell. For truck series, I'm confident this year is one of those seasons. It's going to be a time will tell thing. There's going to be drivers this year nobody's going to expect to do anything. That are definitely going to make some changes, I think, in the truck series for sure.
Yeah. I was like, Matty. And then, well, no, Matty. But, there's nothing you could do about that, really. I mean, and again, it was Daytona. So Daytona is always one of those races.
As long as Matty D doesn't lose his contract, just because of the history.
That's what he does.
He's with a new team. Give him this season to, I mean, honestly, look what he did in a year and a half with the new team and everything. They came together at Wood Brothers. It's a new team. Give him some time. I really do think, and honestly, there won't be as many people pressurizing it either. He's in a Cup Series. He was always racing shit cars. You're just no way to avoid that. And he still was competitive. You had other people who probably shouldn't have had the rides they had.
That really has a ride right now.
Still has a ride, and they're in a way better car. And it's like, that does not add up for me.
It doesn't. And I do want to see, I think Haley should stay down there next year too. She got better last year. I think she should win races this year, prove she could be competitive, come back another year, run for the title, and then move up. I don't want to see them Danica her in just 1 year. Hey, you're in the Cup.
Well, I hope Brian Deegan stays Brian Deegan, because if so, what he said at the end of her last ARCA season before her first Cup truck season, he said, this will be the series she learns everything. This is where she is going to learn. And he told her that right on national television. You're going to learn. Yep. And I think as long as Brian Deegan, again, stays Brian Deegan, when she leaves the truck series, she'll be a combating force, because Brian Deegan does not like losing. I'm just going to put it out there like that. No, he does not like to lose.
I just don't want to, again, see her get rushed, because everyone's talking about we don't have enough female drivers. Well, but every time we get a female that's running in anything, except for Jennifer Jo Cobb.
You know what?
Danica went from open wheel to a year in Xfinity and then straight to the Cup. Like, she didn't know how to drive a stock car yet by the time you guys moved her up there. Like, she wasn't ready for all of that. I mean, she had all the talent in the world, no matter what anyone says. Danica was talented. It's just, she was not ready for that. And the level everyone else was at, like, she had zero chance to do anything.
Once you become a race car driver, you're always going to be a race car driver. But people, I think, maybe not so much anymore as they used to, but there's still ignorant people out there, and they think, well, if you can drive one car, you can drive any car. Well, that's not the case. Like I said earlier about the sprint cars compared to the late models, it's not the same.
Yep. And now, after the trucks, there's always the Xfinity Series. I think Gregson's going to get some. I think Hemrick's going to be fantastic now that he shoved Cindric out of the way to win his first ever race and a championship simultaneously. And he's driving for Colleague. There you go. He's driving for Colleague, who was dominant. And he's got AJ as his teammate, who was good to see AJ get up there and get a car that was competitive finally, because look what he's doing when he has that thing and he can drive. Josh Berry. Josh Berry's a guy that I'm thinking, look what he did in his limited time last year. I think he's going to be fantastic this year. Hard luck at Daytona, but who doesn't have bad luck at Daytona? I have lots of bad luck. No one does good at Daytona. It's always one of those. So I think it'll be a good year. But they did just lose in the last, they lost. Haley was always up there. He's in the Cup Series. Cindric was the guy. Briscoe and him, was the guy. Like, they lost all of their guys
that were the guy. It is a shake-up year.
I think
it is definitely a shake-up year.
Gregson, as long as he keeps himself, calm, cool, and collected, because he's too aggressive most of the time. Does all kinds of dumb stuff. No offense to him.
Tell you what, man, we're on the topic of Xfinity Series. I feel like every time I watch a speedway race for Xfinity Series, Riley Herbst needs to learn to just stay all the way in the back, literally, until like the last 40 to 50 laps. Because if he doesn't, every time I feel like, it's not every race, but it feels like almost every time he's on a super speedway, he doesn't make it to the end because of a wreck.
Yep. There's a lot of them. That's just.
Well, I just feel bad for him, because everything changes obviously year to year. We've seen it, but I feel like that team is for the most part still the same. So when Chase went up, there was no reason why they shouldn't have been able to come together and produce at least a mediocre season. They struggled here and there with a lot of things. So, I'm hoping this year change for them. But like I said, clearly we're going to have the same issues this year from the outlook of it on speedways for them.
Yeah, last year was just a bad year for Stuart Haas across the board. Yeah. From like the last 6 races of the season before, Harvick went from dominating to not even being able to finish in the top 20 without like mauling people out of his way. He turned into
I
Ryan Newman.
also cannot tell you how many times last year I heard Stuart Haas drivers, one way or the other, whether it be with the driver to the spotter or the driver to the pit or the crew chief, there was always communication issues. I mean, in the Cup Series, how many times Kevin had to go, damn it, Timmy, I can't hear what he's saying. Tell him this. And I mean, not everybody hears that because obviously not everybody listens to everybody's radio like that. But you flip back and forth between the two drivers and you hear that often. It's like, okay, that's becoming a common problem here. You should address that. Anyways, that's beside the point.
Which brings us up to the Cup Series, though. I mean, Daytona was Daytona. Good to see Cindric beat Bubba to the line. He's 7 years to the day when Trevor Bayne won his second career start ever in his first 500. One for the Wood brothers, who have been, doomed ever since then because they keep just giving themselves terrible karma. But that's a whole other story. But
yeah, they should have kept Matty D. That would have saved them this year.
And Hamlin not even finishing, which never happens. Like, he's always there. That was weird. But there's a lot of, I don't know. Again, everyone's talking about the car. You're not going to learn anything in pack racing. Like, we're not going to know anything. I mean, they were getting hell of a good, like, runs and bumps and like those pushes and closing rate was astronomical. But I mean, you're not going to learn anything about the new aero package or anything.
And that's just it. What was it, like a week and a half ago, I had a picture sent to me. It was Kyle Busch, and it says, it was in reference to Daytona, period. Most expensive race day ever.
Yeah.
Every year. And that was like
every year.
And it's like, man, at some point you think people change that. Well, then this year you got new cars. And then the first race of the season was in a track that no one even has ever raced on because it never existed until like a week and a half before that. But
they did a good job with it, I thought. That was better than I thought it was going to be.
They clearly didn't follow the designs they released, even though I kept changing. I stayed on top of it, tried to anyways, and clearly they still didn't end up building it the way they wanted to because, like we had talked about before, they wanted to put the football field inside the track. There was no way. I mean, they built that track way too wide to be able to put a football field into it. So,
I mean, and they still barely had any room in the infield. So, I mean, the infield.
That's my point, right?
Like 3 cars wide, maybe. Yeah, but I still thought it was a good race. At least they put on a better show than I thought they were going to.
Well, one thing I don't remember who said it. It was during the race, but one of them had said it, and it was one of those things where it was basically, we haven't been as NASCAR Cup Series on a quarter-mile track in forever. That's how they left it, And it's one of those things where it's like, I like racing all types of tracks. I like all racing. But I'll be honest, I've never had a full-size car on a quarter-mile track. That would be fun.
That'd be ridiculous. I didn't like that they did single car qualifying. I thought that was a waste of TV time. Like, just put them in their heat races. Let them just draw a number and go. Because, like, he's done. He's done.
That's just it. If you're going to qualify them on runs like that, and you're only going to have one guy at a time out there, literally, you're wasting your time on qualifying.
I mean, that was the big downfall of it to me. It was a waste of time.
They should have either went off of points from last year, or they should have went and just put everybody's name in a pot, started drawing.
Yeah, do the random draw like they did for qualifying for all those years. See how lucky you get. And then here's where you are. Heat race 1, heat race 2, which the second heat race was far superior. And those guys were just beating the living hell out of each other the whole entire time.
Yeah.
And your boy Ice Cube, he did a good job during the halftime show, whatever they called that thing, even though it was weird that he was like way the hell on that side of the stadium and the only people that were near him were like spotters. Like, I
was kind of shocked though. Like, one, I was shocked that we had talked about this earlier in the year before the season even started. The fact that they had Ice Cube involved with that, and this is obviously a different sport, but then they also had certain people involved with the Super Bowl. Granted, that's a topic for another day, but they were going to the right market personnel to get it out there, because I feel like there's more people that would be involved in watching NASCAR or want to watch NASCAR that would watch that era, that nostalgia of rap. But if you would have put somebody new on there, you would have stained NASCAR. There would have been a big stain left in the name.
And I think that they found the perfect one to actually make everyone happy.
Everybody likes Ice Cube.
And I mean, if you're thinking Los Angeles, just between that and the Super Bowl, I mean, who do you think of? Dre, Snoop, Cube. Well, you guys
most definitely.
50 Cent hanging upside down.
One thing I was depressed about in the Super Bowl is they didn't have. I expected it the whole way through the halftime show. I was waiting for it. Then California Love came on. I expected it, and there was no hologram with Tupac. Side note, just want to put that out there.
At least he got his piano in though. Yeah, they did do that. I mean, come on, they had 50 Cent hanging upside down.
I mean, that was a nice bonus. I did not expect to see him or Mayer. I mean,
look, they told they told Bizarre. Do push up. They said what did 2.5. Couldn't get back up. Fetty looked like he was gonna have an aneurysm. I'm not calling him fat. He's always been big, but hanging upside down when you're like 24 compared to hanging upside down when you're in your 40s.
I mean, he's still fit. Don't let anybody deter you from that.
That man's still jacked.
And I'm shocked he wasn't involved with the race in LA, because he's a big fan of NASCAR.
Yeah, so
and he's a really big fan of what's face.
Again, though, he had the contract with the Super Bowl, different networks. They probably
I'm sure
had some kind of
conflict of interest thing.
Yep, but they had a good thing going. Again, I thought that was good. I thought Speed Weeks was good. It was a very strange change of pace to be able to see qualifying and the duels and the Truck Series and the ARCA Series and the Xfinity Series and the 500 under blue skies the whole entire time. That has not happened. And
there's some nice California weather out there. SoCal is beautiful weather. I give them that. I have to give California that.
Like they had that for the thing for the Clash, and then it was the same exact weather in Florida. Like it was just the damnedest thing.
I know we talked about this years ago. The whole time I was out there for boot camp, I mean, boot camp plus the 2.5, whatever days, it was almost 20 days, I think, that I was there before the boot camp. I had to wait to pick up. But anyways.
Poor soul.
The whole time I was there, it rained one day. And it was the day before we graduated. We did not practice, though. We through that rain. It's just amazing. The weather out there is amazing.
I was on the island. I was a real Marine. And don't worry, we had hurricanes. There's a hurricane during the Crucible. If the roof blows off in the middle of the night, grab your stuff and get to the indoor facility. Like, why don't we just go to what if we're out there?
I'll tell you honestly, dude, if they would have taken the mountains out of it, California would have been a vacation. But
mountains,
when you add the mountains,
I had
changes the game.
And as we talked about it earlier, Ty Dillon does not deserve a ride with GMS Petty. I mean, Casey Mears did good in the 13 car. Ty did worse, and the team folded because they couldn't keep their sponsor because they weren't doing anything after Casey Mears had Geico for like 7 million years. Like he shut down a team. He sucked so bad, and he got a ride because, well, we all know who his grandfather is. I think Austin's always been the more talented one. Look what Austin did in the Xfinity Series. Ty won one race in all those years. Like he's sorry. I mean, the only good thing he's ever done is Kevin Harvick wanted to remove his skull after a truck race in Martinsville.
Yeah.
There's no respect. He's no talent. He's spoon-fed. No respect for nothing. But thank God I'm leaving the team. Like,
yep.
Screw that. I'm happy I'm leaving. Okay, well, that went from a very happy moment to I'm going to take your grandson. I'm going to run his head off of his body. Like, one, he deserves it. Two, easy fella.
It's funny. There was I think it was 2019. There was an interview between Mike Dillon and Kevin. And that was one of the questions that was brought up in that interview. And Mike, he just said, I got no comment on that topic. because I think he knew. I mean, out of all the people there, him and Mike Dillon did get along. I'll give Mike Dillon that. Him and Kevin did get along.
We got that. I got that. What?
Okay. But I think that was his way of saying, he's my kid. I'm not gonna say anything, but at the same time, I respect you way more than I respect myself. So.
I still want to be friends after this. So yeah, we'll move on. But he doesn't deserve that ride. He's not going to do anything in that ride. And it's not going to be Petty's fault because Eric Jones was at least competitive while it was still Petty Motorsports before they merged. I just think Richard was just done with it in general.
Yeah. Well, and I also think that his organization as a whole, though, has changed in comparison to his views, like what he wants, what he likes it to be, what he wants to run as. I just don't think NASCAR people, younger NASCAR administrative people, have the same views anymore. Like if Dale Earnhardt Sr. was alive right now, like,
we wouldn't have had a wing.
First things first, I would say a good 40% of regulations would not be in existence that's changed since he passed away.
Tragic.
But at the same time, I also know there's a lot of stupid stuff, and I don't want to bring up a sore topic, but a certain race car driver last year accusing somebody of doing was that 2 years ago, a noose thing 2 years ago.
17 FBI agents said it was a garage pull, and he's still on air talking about his.
That brings up a point.
He was a victim of a hate crime. It's like, well, 17 FBI agents. 17 for a garage pull. And guess what? What really pissed me off is it was closed garages, which means it would have had to be an official or one of his drivers or someone on someone's crew because no one else could get in there. So we pretty much called the whole sport racist. And everyone always thought it was a hillbilly racist sport. And then he went and called literally what was an inside job. Actually, it wasn't even a job.
And he literally brings up the point I talk about all the time when it comes to drivers having something they shouldn't have. Okay. You got all the shit he's done during his career, which was a whole lot of nothing. Then COVID hits, and all of a sudden, this kid's like a god in the political and media eyes. I'm speaking outside the box on this. But with that being said, if you accuse somebody what he accused somebody of, and no matter who the hell it would have been, even though it wasn't what he accused them of, there was, I feel like, a point where somebody could have said, you're accusing somebody of a very, very horrific human rights violation. That's federal crimes. That's prison time. You're not getting out of it. With that being said, when it turned out like every friggin' mechanic in the world's existence today knows that every garage door that doesn't have a motor on it has a pull rope. And usually it has 1 to 3 or 4 loops so you can pull it down.
Yeah. If they don't have the chain, they have the loop. And I had this argument with Drew. It was a noose. Like, did it cinch around your hand when you pull it? No. Did it have 13 loops? No. So it didn't cinch down? No. Well, then you, my friend, do not have a noose. What? You have a big garage door way over your head, and you could just yank it really fast. What? Because that's easier than, down, done. They tie it up. It's locked up. It's done. No chains, no anything. Just whoop.
Where I was going to go with that topic is if somebody else outside of him would have said something like that and it wasn't true, they would have not only no longer been in NASCAR, they would have faced federal crimes for accusing somebody of that, because that when you make a false accusation like that, you better hope that it's true.
And the big problem is they let him just keep running on it. ESPN just put out a documentary on it.
Thank you. And now he has his what's the thing on I seen it this morning, an ad for it. It's on Netflix. It's called either Driven or something like that. Documentary series by yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna say,
but all Jeremy Mayfield did was take Adderall.
I was a big fan of Bubba when he drove the 6 car for Roush in the Xfinity series, and after 6 races, he was like 4th in the points, and he still couldn't get a sponsor when there were bums that had sponsors. I felt that, he was getting shafted for a reason. But he got his, he was good, and I was on his side. And then, he comes out and calls everyone racist. I'm like, Well, as it was closed, you literally just called what everyone in California, like Hannah even said, well, we all just think it's some hillbilly redneck racist stuff. Like what? You just push the stereotype on a global scale over a garage pull. Like if
And
they
he's
didn't,
still running.
and if they didn't say anything out loud, I would have no problem with him. Like, but him crying
the thing of
still
it
to
is
this
now-
day, like,
And today, like this season, after this season, Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan could fire him, and nobody could ever say anything about the whole race card because
oh, they're
Michael
still-
Jordan is black, Denny Hamlin is white. Pitbull, he's a Hispanic form of some or Latino, whatever he is. I'm not sure.
He's I want to say Cuban or Puerto Rican.
Okay, so I think he is. I think you're right. I think he's Puerto Rican. No,
He's the whitest Puerto Rican person I've ever seen in my
my
life. but
whole
he's
my
Puerto
whole
Rican.
point with that is all of those guys own teams in NASCAR. It's across. That's
Floyd
not one
Mayweather.
race. So
Floyd
where is there
Mayweather's
no
in there.
equity?
Yeah, Floyd Mayweather
Oh yeah,
just started a
yeah,
team.
Floyd Mayweather this year.
And the Xfinity Series has Eric Awuji and Emmett Smith teamed up with him to start a team.
Yep. And that's what bothers me about it, because you can't. Nobody can say there's no equity as far as race goes in NASCAR. You could get rid of Bubba altogether with it, and there still would be. But my whole point with that and where I was going with it is that combined with how he's still gotten away with everything, you combine that and then you look at it and you go, he's still running. Kyle Larson said a word that he should not have said. I don't think anyone has said he should have said it.
He shouldn't have.
But he lost his stuff.
He lost
And
everything.
I'm like, you start taking those scales here, and I'm like, okay,
Hey,
that's fine. You want to play it that way? Well, then you add somebody like Jeremy Mayfield in the picture. Well, what about him? Uh-oh. But anyways, Jeremy Mayfield came into the picture, and it's like, wait a minute, how can this happen and nothing negative is said or done? This happens, he loses everything, which I'm not saying he should have said it. I'm not saying he shouldn't have got punished. I've never not said that. I think he should have rethought how he did things once he got punished, but he didn't. That's just my personal opinion. But
he got punished.
Jeremy Mayfield popped for Adderall on a urinalysis test. What? Why? I mean, granted, he's the person that he's like, dude, the reason I got let go is not enough to justify it, and I don't care what happens at this point. That's why I never took the sensitivity course or the drug course. He said no because it's wrong. With that being said, he never said he didn't do it. He was upfront and honest about it. I have on a moral level for the leadership in NASCAR and decision making, which is why I said the statement I said about the other day when we were texting. Like it's unacceptable. It does not make sense.
Steve
They're doing things that are not in the scope of reality for anyone involved in NASCAR. It's like, wait a minute, this is why do you think you got guys like? Might think you got drivers like Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, and I've even heard a couple times Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski, because they're the older guys in the series too. They've all said you can't do things this way. And when over half the field of drivers racing last season said don't change Atlanta.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Probably shouldn't change Atlanta.
And they were fighting that for years. Like every year they wanted to repave it. And they're like, how about no, let's not. Because it was one of the best tracks they had going. And which brings us finally, I'm sad, I'm sorry, but to Auto Club Speedway, which I hate. I think it's one of like you see them, they hit bumps and they can go 6 wide on restarts. Yeah, wait for about 3 laps.
Who do you think's going to win?
I'm just going to hope that Kyle gets it. Larson.
Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
I mean,
it'd be good to see Kevin get his groove back. I mean, this is where we're going to find out, but I mean, they got to show me something first.
Oh, before I talk about Auto Club, one more thing from last week I forgot to mention. As I was telling you before, that Steve Phelps.
Yeah, Steve Phelps is just killing everything.
I don't like the interview he gave yesterday. I believe it was yesterday, or maybe it was early this morning. I'm pretty sure it was yesterday. He was asked about how he felt about the changes in the cars this year and how everything has went so far, if they're happy with it. He was talking about the race, and he says, yeah, it was good. We're happy with the cars and this and that. And I'm like, when when he hit that wall the other day, I don't remember who it was now. I was so dumbfounded by the wreck for the aftermath. I can't remember who it was that hit the wall and went airborne.
Myatt Snyder.
Yeah.
The Xfinity race when his car blew to pieces right there by Michael Jordan's
exactly campus. When his car went up in the air and caught that fence and came back down, when Dale Earnhardt Sr. hit the wall, there was not that many pieces on the track. Now, I understand they wanted to build the cars because they've changed the rules so much that it's affected even at grassroots levels. And I mean, NASCAR changed so much that it literally came down all the way to grassroots.
Oh, yeah.
And with that being said, I don't like the way it happened. That car should not have came apart in that many pieces. And if you're making it to where it breaks away that way, that means you've lightened the cars up tremendously. Well, if you lighten the car up that much, that explains the way he went airborne the way he did. And I think that we might see that again this season.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, Steve Phelps was talking about it. And I the way he was very progressively and happy and promoting, I'm like, time will tell. We're only two real races into the season. And we have a third exhibition race, what I call the LA Coliseum. I mean,
the exhibition, we had a restrictor plate. You don't know nothing yet.
That's what I'm saying. Like, these cars are new. We have not ran enough races for him to make that confident statement.
Well, I mean, he has to though. He has to, kiss the ring for the media. I think, I mean, yes, it was a different day and age with those cars, but when they go up in the air like that, I mean, they are technically meant to have the car take the whooping so the driver doesn't have to worry. Like, so he's safer and absorbs the impact. But I mean, the motor bouncing around, both axles gone. I mean, he walked out of it, and
frame that were gone that should not have been gone.
And Harrison Burton going up, I felt that was more karma. But like the new cars, when they go sideways on the plate tracks, they're okay. But the second anyone makes any contact with them when they go sideways, they have all gone up in the air. And we saw
if
more
there's a
people
forced
up in the
contact
air on the back. I mean, they were going up like no matter what all weekend.
I don't remember whose crew chief it was on Saturday that said that. How did he say it?
Probably said it better than we could.
Long story short, he was getting at the point that this is going to become a problem.
And those cars were loud.
That was where it was at with him.
And the bumping was weird too when Harrison went up because, I mean, Brad was hitting him in the same spot every time. I mean, granted, the air is different between them all. Like when they're 3 wide, 2 wide. I mean, the airflow.
Well,
there were cars that just went sideways from getting side drafted. They would just go sideways. Like people side draft all the time at restrictor plates, and people were going sideways because of it this time. I mean, I saw a few squirrels here and there. People would, what they'd catch. I mean, these things just went full fledged sideways.
When they redesigned the car for this year, didn't they make the rear of the car exactly the same except for the bumper skins? I feel like that was part of the conversation was had last fall when they were talking about the car's changes, was that the car body itself on the rear would be exactly the same. It was just the bumper skins that would change. That's kind of what I got out of that.
Yeah. Like it.
So that changes the game a lot, because if the only thing on the back of that car that is different and on the front of the car that's different is literally the bumper skins and everything else is exactly the same, you're really playing with aerodynamics tremendously dangerously in that point.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, I don't think we're gonna. I mean, Talladega. I mean, we all know what to expect in Talladega, and Daytona. Like everyone says, it's most expensive race.
Learns to go to the.
It's the most expensive. Hey, he almost got the 500. Yeah, he almost got it. Which, I mean, at least he was happy because he finished third, and not crying like Bubba because he didn't win.
Yeah.
Like, well, guy who didn't win by this much. Next time, go win by that much. Sorry, I hate to break. Cindric was not letting you buy him. He would have wrecked himself to win. I mean, he's not going to go full Newman when it comes to going, blocking and for the win. I mean, he's not going to.
That's just it. There's guys out there complaining like Bubba Wallace, and it's like, well, if you could have just tried 1% harder, you probably would have beat him by that much. Or option B, don't complain too much until you become known as the guy that will most definitely probably not win, but you will most definitely not get past willingly. It could be worse.
I was happy to see though during speed weeks for the Daytona 500 thing, they didn't have Bubba on the picture anymore. I'm like, wow, that was a 1 year thing. Why? Because he won one rain shortened race. Otherwise, he's done nothing in like 3 or 4 years except cause a stink. And that's the only reason why he was on there. It was like past champion. Hamlin should be a champion, but he's never going to because Karma just hates him. Past champion, Bubba. And this is before he even won a race.
You said that about Denny Hamlin. That makes me wonder, why does Denny Hamlin not have one yet? I'm not saying he's the best driver ever, but he does have talent. I will give him that.
I just think it's karma.
And
it comes down to Daytona that last year, the junior one. And like, dude went flying through the air. I think it was Austin Dillon, actually. And everyone was cheering over the radio. And he told everyone to shut up until he was out of the car and he knew he was safe. And they went to Victory Lane, and there he was in Victory Lane going, what? I hope, I'm not, we'll celebrate after he gets out of the car. And then Newman literally blew to pieces, was on fire, upside down, could have been dead. And Denny was over there, and he got the flag, and he was doing burnouts in the grass and celebrating while Newman was literally like 100 yards away dying. You're just a terrible human being. That's why people had respect for Junior, no matter how much he won. And people are just like, sorry, Denny. And he cries too much. You wreck everybody. Hell, he blamed everyone in the 500 after he got wrecked. That's all his fault. He's an idiot. You remember how many times just you turned Danica at Daytona? Just to Daytona. Let's not get into the rest of it. Or all the times you took out Chase Elliott and literally just ran him over in Martinsville to keep him from winning the race and moving on to the playoffs. You just kaboom, just dumped him. You didn't bump him. You slammed into him at mock Jesus to spin him out, which is why Chase, looked like he was going to kill him the second time around. Mad the first time, irate the second time. I just think Denny's just, I don't know. Denny's his own worst enemy, really. When it gets down to it, it's too hot-headed.
I feel bad because as close as him and Gibbs' son was, and how close they were, and that was the reason everything worked the way it did, was because of their friendship and how close them two were. It's just sad that those two haven't. He couldn't have gotten a championship for the two of them as a friendship and for that.
Oh yeah, it's just Denny.
I'm not saying he can't yet.
Denny a few years ago compared to Denny now are two completely different human beings altogether. I like Denny at the beginning. He's just been a broken, bitter, angry man. That's probably because he hasn't caught it. Yeah, that happens when you keep coming in second. Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
At least Mark Martin was still happy when he finished second in the championship 6 times. He was still Mark Martin. He wasn't a bitter, angry, just miserable human.
I don't think there'll ever be another driver that can lose as much so closely as he does, as many times as he did. Not as he does, but as he did. I don't think I've ever seen anybody stay that civil and that happy. He's just a happy person.
He never wrecked anyone to get anything. He wanted to outrace them. He didn't want to, wreck people to get anything. That's why everyone liked Mark, and that's why I have zero faith in Denny. But back to Auto Club, I hate the track. I thought they should have imploded it. They've been talking about it for years. They had 2 years. They didn't run there. They could have blown it up and built the short track that they've been talking about, because everyone loves Auto Club so much, they're going to blow it up. It is that much fun that they're going to kill it.
This one is going to blow your mind. I've probably never even expected it to come out of my mouth, but I think with the last season, the way it was for Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch, I honestly think this year, Kyle Busch mentally as a driver will become a different person. He will act differently this year. And I honestly think he's a chance to win this weekend.
Yeah, you saw him too, and they're talking about continue before he continued his win streak. They're like, man, I just want to run good. I don't even care. I don't care about winning. I just want to run good. Because we have not run good. I just want but he wasn't having any fun at all. Neither was Kevin. It was just a weird year, really. Look how long it took Hamlin to get any. That's because of aerodynamics and that's the aero package, which got Denny the Southern 500 and ruined my whole entire night. So thank you for that, Denny. I was still so pissed off. I thought, what, do you want to get in a hotel? What? I'll still be up in 3 hours. We can make it home. And what do you know? 3 hours later, I was still wide awake in the hotel, and we could have made it home. I was pissed. And where I parked, though, I did get out. Yeah, I was on the backside way down there. So I literally just pulled right out of our lot, drove on like nothing happened, except for drunk staggering around the streets. But, you know.
I'll tell you, that was one nice thing about going to the races up here at MIS because of Auto Value. I usually end up going through them just because of my history of business with them. When I go, I get special seating and I get my pick. Do I want to sit down on the pit row, or do I want to sit up in the beat? If I sit up in the stands, I get my pick a seat where I sit, and I always sit. If I sit in the stands, I have one spot. I always sit, and it's within the first 7 rows. And it's right, literally on pit road line. At the speed limit line.
That's where I sit for Charlotte. When I go to races in Charlotte, I always sit. But
like, I can tell you honestly, you were talking about Kyle Larson and walls earlier.
Well, he loved walls.
I'll tell you how many times I've watched Kyle Larson at that track go, if he could just ride 3 inches lower, just 3 inches, he'd be great. And he'd still have those aerodynamics, but no.
Yeah,
I go just hair more and test that line.
He wasn't an inch off the wall. He wasn't trying hard enough. But again, like I hate Auto Club, and I don't think we're going to learn a bunch, whether it's the Xfinity Series in the Production Alliance 300 or the Wise Power 400 for the Cup Series. But I mean, I really don't even have like anything because we don't know anything about the car. Like this will be the first time we'll see if it's actually that even. Like
the prediction for this weekend is strictly off of past knowledge. You can't gain off of anything else guessing wise or trying to make a judgment or prediction because, like I said earlier, your cars are 100% new, and let's be honest, you haven't ran enough races to say they're one way or the other.
No. I mean, I think the guys that are normally good there, you know, like the Kyle Bushes, Kyle Larson, Logano. I mean, Penske's always good there, so I think they'll be up there. But really, I mean, I just want to see what the other cars are going to do. As they said, they made it the most even. I want to see if they actually are, and if everyone can actually run like competitively. But I still think it's going to be a single file, boring race, which is why they should have blew the thing up in 2020 when they couldn't go because of COVID. Or last year, they even had another chance to blow it up. Well, they could build that track in the LA Coliseum in like a week and a half. You could blow up that track and build something, build a half-mile track, 3/4 mile, and it could have been done way quicker than 2 years, especially with the weather out there. It's not like it was going to be pouring on them and ruining it. Like, blow it up, do all of us a favor. Hell, blow up part of it and just build the short track there. Well, we could just see the remnants of the dead track behind you. I don't care. I've never liked it.
I mean, they literally could put a short track in there and keep everything else and have multi-series events. I mean, not necessarily have multi-series in the same weekend, but you could have multi-series run at that location.
Like they have the space, but blow it up.
I said that about what's the one that's down there? Rockingham.
God.
Is that the one? I'm pretty sure that's the one they turned into a storage facility.
Well, I know
they're just storing semis there.
Oh, a lot of them are, yeah. I don't remember which one it was, but you sent me the picture.
I think the one I sent you had semis and cars. Yeah. The one I sent you, they had 2 different things going. One side was semi storage and a trucking company that was leasing that whole entire area out, and then all of the parking in front of the front stretch, all of that was leased out to one of the car companies down there, manufacturers.
On a positive note, the state of North Carolina has actually allocated in their budget, I think, like $1 billion to go to revamping Rockingham, and I think North Wilkesboro is getting some money too. Like, if you're going to stop building new tracks, but go back to the Rock. There's a reason why the best races of the year.
That show that Dale Jr. does, Lost Speedways.
It's a great one.
What he does is good because it should. I hope what I look at it as is, for me as a fan, it makes me go, there was tracks listed on some of his shows. I've seen races from there. Like, I've literally seen it, and I'm like, he's got a good point here. And I hope it's enough to make them go, why don't we stop building all these new tracks, go back to our roots and have our smaller tracks, which is what they want to do anyways.
They already got a bunch.
They
of
made
them.
that
They put
clear.
money into it. They put the money forward to buy out Speedway Motorsports Incorporated, whatever the hell it was called, so they could own
There's
Daytona but they own everything. You have the money for that. You can
there's
fix the
multiple
tracks you
short
already have.
that are in great enough shape still. I will say that they're in more than enough sound enough shape that they could just update, renew some things. Obviously, you'll have to repave probably in some of them, but
Very much so.
hell of a lot fucking cheaper than. Sorry, there it goes.
Hey, I already did it, so
A hell of a lot cheaper than building a whole entire new facility. I feel like, and that's. But that's an amount of ignorance and a level of ignorance that's across the board and everything in this country. So,
yeah, like no one. I'm full for bringing back the old tracks because there's a reason they were there for so long before we got all. We have to have the.
That's what I'm saying. I hope that's guilty.
Yep, the biggest cookie cutter tracks known to mankind. So everything's exactly the same. And then guess what? The bubble burst, and people didn't care about them anymore because the racing sucked. And you have like all these tracks that are still, everything obviously is going to need help, but I hope when they put money into Rockingham, I hope they fix it up, build up some hotels because there's nothing near it. Like the closest hotel is like 30 miles away, but which makes.
What was the other one you said?
North Wilkesboro.
That one. That's another one that Dale Jr. is a big fan of.
Yep, he loved it. Everyone loved it.
I hope they open that one back up. I really do.
Yeah. But I can't.
And it doesn't necessarily even have to be NASCAR. It could be in another series. I don't care. Just open it up. Because honestly, if you think about it, if they open them smaller tracks up, you're going to have more than just NASCAR involved. You can
get everybody. You could literally.
Series out there running. You got sprints. You got legends. Legends could run on a quarter mile, half mile, and 3/4 mile track.
Yeah. They got all
those cars move.
They got all kinds of stuff that they could do. And I think that's better than when they bring some of those series and have them run on like the Tri-Oval and Pit Road at like Charlotte Motor Speedway. Look what you got, a bunch of tracks where you.
And another series of racing that could benefit from that is the mini sprint series. And not necessarily all of the mini sprints, but like the 600 open and the 600 unrestricted. Dude. Those cars, do you know how hard it is to run an 8-mile track with a 600? It's hard. You no more than get to the top end or the very top of the mid end of second gear and you're coming back down already. It's miserable. It'd be nice because if they open up some of the smaller tracks, it's going to bring open options for other series like those mini sprint series. The Great Lakes series would travel to somewhere like Kentucky because they're a Midwest series. If you open some more mid tracks like that up, in Kentucky, in Iowa, you would see Midwest series hitting those tracks.
Yeah, and and building all those up, like instead of building quarter miles, even though we all know why they did the thing at the Coliseum, try to get California on their side, but like the North Wilkesboro's, not they put the money into it, and you can have so many people run races there, and it'll help the communities that are all there instead of all these places that are already
mini cup cars.
Yeah, the big.
You start opening up quarter-mile tracks, dude. You can run it. You could run.
They're already there. Like you just got to revamp them, and they will pay for themselves. If you build it, there's a reason that North Wilkesboro and Rockingham are still selling out every single year. You just got rid of it because you wanted places like California and Texas, and just cookie cutter after cookie cutter after cookie cutter. No offense to.
And that's the other thing that I think. It's got its purpose. I think what's left for super speedways, they should probably leave it and still run them. I do think that they need to spread them out though. But that's just a conversation of a whole nother entire topic though.
Are they? I think they're running. Are they still run the Daytona Road Course for the fall race? I swear they were. They're going to run the road course.
I believe so.
Yeah, so at least that's one wreck fest out of the way. And I think. Yeah, more road courses and short tracks. I'm sorry, but that just makes better racing.
Yeah,
people actually have to drive.
My thing
who knows how to drive.
They have to stay. I think they have to stay the same about everything though, because how many tracks are left they run on for super speedways? Is it 5 or 7?
They got Daytona. They got Talladega. They got
Michigan.
Isn't
Pocono considered a speedway? Super speedway?
No, it's Pocono International Raceway.
Oh, you're
It's
right. You're right.
It's a triangle.
But
Can't make it a super speedway. You have to use brakes there.
yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, anyway, the whole point is you got super speedways
and the Nashville
and
Fairgrounds, which I think they just opened up.
That they've closed over the years. They could open them back up. One race a season at each super speedway. But then what that does is it gives the rest of the year for that super speedway to do testing, R&D. And I don't know. I don't think they do it very many other places other than Michigan, but like Goodyear.
Oh, they love tire tests.
Like 30 out of the 52 weeks of the year up here.
Yeah, they're doing tire tests all the time.
And my thing of it is, it's like there's a lot more that can happen at a raceway or a super speedway or an international raceway, however you want to look at them. There's more that can happen at those tracks than just the one race a year from NASCAR. They used to do Indy cars here. They don't do that no more.
Well, that was a speed thing, I believe.
Well, they did get faster.
People were getting mauled when they wrecked because they were going like 230 into a wall. But there's no saving that.
Well, what's his face? It was Marco Andretti. He hit 237 or 236. And it was literally 2 seasons later, it was gone. They weren't they had the next season, and then the following season after that, they were no longer at Michigan.
Now the IndyCar series, them leaving, I'm okay with them losing a Michigan when we gained like Nashville, like we did last year, running on the streets of Nashville. I thought that was a beautiful thing for them to do because it's Nashville.
But see, there's another thing. IndyCar is the same way. Every time they were running here, when they were running here, they were running twice a year. There's no reason to. One time a season, open it up, get other series in here, get things open. You could run late models and modifieds on MIS. That would be awesome. I would pay a lot of money to just do one race of modifieds on MIS, just because I know how much fun that would be.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And they have the ability. It's just, will they actually, put the money again? At least State of North Carolina. If you think about it,
the more series they open them up to, like if you open up more tracks, you're only doing one race per series per season. You're opening up for them smaller series to blossom, boom. They can do more races, more locations, which equals more money, economies across more areas, local, small economies, hometown economies, where you got mom and pop stores are going to benefit from it.
Yep. Fan bases are going to grow just because there's more opportunities for people to see anything.
It's obviously not even close to the same world, but a statement was made to me last week about some stuff in the American Legion. And that was that the more events you have for the American Legion post, the more your membership benefits. So basically he was telling us the more things you have here, the more your membership rates will go up. And this is coming from a dude who is no longer a commander. He's been in the Legion for 60 some years. He's a life member. And he says, the more you do, the more you show, the more people are open to you, the more you will see, is what he was getting.
And if you don't know,
now you know.
I know. You know the words. Just listen to the song. I could just hear the beat to it. Back when you could sit there and listen to rap and just, this was it.
That was when rap was good.
Rap. But overall, and that gives us all of our final thoughts right there. I just hope they keep growing it and building it, because there's opportunities, and more states like North Carolina need to allocate money. If NASCAR isn't going to get them back in shape, for them to get it back in shape, because they know it's good. I mean, they wouldn't put $1 billion into the tracks to get them and the area built up if they didn't think that they were gonna, the people are speaking. States, but sorry,
honestly, what you're saying,
red states have the money. Blue states, they just
well, but just because the state itself is against it, I'm going to give you an example that proves your point to the absolute fullest extent. And I don't think you and I've ever really talked about. I think I've talked about this racetrack with you, but I don't think we ever talked about the problems around it. There's a racetrack up here called Onondaga Drag Strip.
Yep, don't worry, it's your profile picture for like 9 years.
They were around for decades, racing constant every single week. My grandfather drag racing. They reopened, raced 2 seasons, and then every season after that, they did not race more than half the season because it was every year it was legal battles, and then they'd have to shut down for a few months, and they'd come up with the money to it. And it was all because of one lawyer who moved there. Like 6 years after they started revamping the track and redoing everything to get it opened back up, he moved there 6 years after the start of that. Didn't want it. Well, being the track that it is and having the history and the ability to get good, wholesome, honest, fun racing there, and everybody is good. I have to be honest. I've been to a lot of hometown grassroots drag strips. This has good people, and they're all built by the people driving. Nobody there has a car that's built by somebody else.
Yeah.
It's not like the racetracks where you go on a circle track, you can find a car that would be built by somebody like me. Drag strip, those guys that are driving are building those cars. Yep. Or trucks or whatever they run. And somebody got a hold of that information and said, well, I got a lot more money than that lawyer. And guess what? This year, they'll be racing a full season. They raced a quarter of the season last year.
Well, that's a good thing.
They opened it back up. They finally got another booth that this guy had paid to have built. The last one was a really nice booth. It was built. It was great. The building itself was built by a contractor, a local contractor. And all the electronics, the communications, and the tree and everything, and the controllers for that was all donated from you. What's the one that everybody knows up here? Not 131, but Milan. Milan's a really big drag strip, and they donated everything for the communications, the tree, and all that, so they could have it. Now, it wasn't the most updated series; it was a one series old. Yeah. But
it's a good start.
It was better than nothing, and it was better than anything they could afford to buy. By far.
Again, and tracks like that coming together, but that could make a lot of the financial.
That's what I'm saying. That happened in a state where our politicians absolutely hate anyone that's conservative or believes in anything hometown. If you are a hometown patriotic kind of person, they don't like you here in the state. But they come together and still bring the racing above all. So.
Whitlis hates everyone. Don't take it personally. I don't even think she likes people on her. Whitlis just hates everyone.
I mean,
literally everyone.
Yes, she does. Even her own workers. I think she hates her own husband.
She hates everything. But yeah, more hometown stuff is good. And again, everyone gets together. States put in money. Other tracks are like, hey, we updated this. So here you go. Merry Christmas.
Will say, we get more people involved in our state, like that dude from Grand Rapids representing that district. What's his name?
Beats the hell out of me.
Peter Meyer.
There you go.
He was Iraq vet.
Beats the hell out of me. That's my answer.
Well, he's the same way. He's a hometown guy. He supports all the small races. They still do mini cup racing in Grand Rapids. It's the only place left in the state of Michigan with mini cup race. Otherwise, you got to drive all the way to Missouri or Illinois.
And all the tracks are there. It's just putting forth a little bit of effort. It's not even a lot.
I don't even think
it'll pay for itself.
When I looked at this season for the mini cup series, they don't have the Great Lakes series no more. But when I looked at the mini cup series down there, which goes to North Carolina, there was none left there's none left in Tennessee either. It was Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Kentucky, North Carolina, and I think South Carolina had tracks for that series. But I think it was called like the something series or something. Anyways,
gotta have it right there. Carolinas.
Right there in coastal Carolina, down there right by you. They still run mini cup cars there.
To this Carolina Speedway, and it's like 45 minutes an hour, depending. Yeah, well, traffic, it's about a year away, but it's right there. Carteret County still has their speedway where they do.
I think it's time I come down there and watch that race.
Yeah,
I would love to see mini cup cars. I know this sounds stupid because they're based off of a lawnmower designed engine, but I've raced one, and I'm going to tell you right now, those are fun.
Oh, hey, I'm all for it. It's just actually getting people to give a damn, which is the hard thing. But with all of that being said, that being said, I think it's a good segue to wrap it up. Walter's going to join me on Fridays, allegedly, depending on, how dead he is. Yeah, decrepit.
Except something happens with the baby.
Yeah, that one's understandable, but he'll be with us then. I'll still be doing whatever day of the week. Mondays, normally I'll do the Monday show by myself. The TV even said, I've had enough of you. Please stop talking. It just went blank. So don't forget, follow along. Don't forget to share it out. All of us, you, me, Taylor, everyone listening, share it out. Enjoy it. Tell us what to comment and tell me what you think. I'll tell him.
That's you too, Travis.
But get it out there. It's really good. Like I enjoy it. And racing again, like there's so many tracks. If they just put forth the effort, like they're all, well, the bubble bursts. Like, but if you put forth effort, like in all these little places, more people would get to see racing, and then you could grow.
What's the one
bubble
Brad's
back up.
dad owns down there?
I do not want to watch the Peacock original Bell.
Isn't that like North Georgia Raceway or something like that?
Sutton. I couldn't even. All I know is
That
they
still has the whole entire structure, Steve, for the stands is still 100% intact. Needs to be cleaned and repainted. Now all the wood framing that was done for like doors and stuff had to be replaced, but the whole concrete building and stands is still 100% intact. Frames, like the actual openings for frames and stuff, like the concrete's 100% intact. Wood's fun, but
nothing wrong with that. And again, like it's just all I'm going to say to close it out is just a little bit of effort, people. And when you see your local trucks, no matter what, go to it. Why? Because you support them. That gets more. That helps them. You have better product, better facilities, better everything, which then makes it more fun to come, which drags in more people, which helps the small towns that are around all of these small tracks. And you can actually boost the economy and the world to make everything just a little bit better just by giving up a few hours on a Saturday, Wednesday, to whatever night they're running. It just takes 3-4 hours of your life. And
always go to your hometown track and support.
You're gonna have to.
Because 9 times out of 10, fireworks are better than the government ones.
Well, that doesn't take much, except for Trump's last one over at when he did his
Springport. Whew. That was a 45-minute grand finale, dude.
I still say Thunder over Louisville. I still say that had some pretty stellar fireworks the week before the Derby, but that was a good one. But we'll wrap it up. I'll be back next week. He'll be back next Friday. Please subscribe, follow, share. Videos are on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. The audio, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, and Google Podcasts. And I'm working on a bunch of others. Those are just the major ones that everyone seems to have. And if you have an Apple phone, you don't have Google Podcasts, but you can download the app. So there. But we'll be back next week. So again, watch the racing this weekend. Check out the stuff on FS1 and FS2 if you have them, because that's where they have like the AMA Supercross and the Hoosier, Arena Cross Outlaw Series, and that stuff I watched yesterday. Like everything's on FS1 and FS2. So please, actually just go into your guide, look up sports, and there's normally some good stuff in there. You just have to catch it. And
don't forget to say a prayer for the people in Ukraine.
Yep, them too. So it was good. And until Monday, peace.